Okay, you got it?
Got it. Yep.
All right, so we were just starting off and I forgot to hit record, but Deanna's got some good conversations going. And she was talking about something that I think, yeah, almost everybody struggles with. And I think that most people think that once you're a jewel, it's not an issue anymore. But it really is every day coming up, like being nervous about talking to people. Or I love that, you shared like you're still kind of like what to say, because that's something that we talked about today in our training. And that was never getting attached to the outcome, just commit to the process. And realizing that, because I'm not going to say everybody, but for myself, I am guilty of, if somebody says, yeah, we can meet and have coffee, like I really, really expect that within 24 hours, I am going to have a new customer. I just expect that. And then when it doesn't happen, I get disappointed, and I have thoughts and it slows me down. I think we've all had time periods where we've signed people like crazy and we're like, this is so fun. I'm going to talk to everybody. Everybody wants to hear from me. But when we don't have those results, we can have some negative thoughts coming in. But if when somebody agrees to set up a meeting with us or jump on the phone with us, our only expectation is that they are willing to take one more step in the process with us. And that's our only expectation. And most of us are guilty of having the expectation of like, oh, this is it. This is it. This is my new rock star. Or somebody's like, okay, fine, I'll make a post. We're like, got my next gold ambassador. And we create all these expectations instead of just committing to the process and knowing, hey, this actually doesn't mean anything. They said they'll jump on the phone with us, but that doesn't actually mean anything at all. And if we stop making it mean something, we won't be disappointed, right? It comes from our process really should be growing our network. How are you growing your network? I can't tell you how many times I've heard, I've already reached out to everybody I know. I've already talked to all the people I know. Everybody I know knows that I sell Plexus. And I get that. And of course, my leadership hat response to that is, well, when is the last time you talked to them? Because you legitimately have no idea what has changed, could have changed even in the last week of their life, right? Like if somebody had come to me about sharing Plexus when we lived in Fort Lauderdale and Rob was making a ton of money, I might not have had a big desire to work so hard and to make things happen. But I've had a few different reasons to push in my life. And if Nicole hadn't shared with me how to sell, and then, I took it from there during those instances. So my huge instances are when Rob lost his job in 2014 and we needed, or 15, and we were going to have to pull Isaac out of private school. You guys all know that story. He wasn't going to go back for his senior year of private school unless I earned the money. And you guys know that I barely spoke at that point, but I knew I needed to make $1,200 a month to keep my son in private school and then to help pay for him to go to college, right? So that was a huge turning point that I did not have any reason to sell prior to that when Rob was in a great job. Then the next time, and I was pretty lucky. Deanna and I really had a great track record of just consistently adding 3 people. And we kind of ranked up every couple months until Senior Ruby when it's really huge doubling. And then it was like a 6-month. We've done pretty good about being consistent. But my next big push, Deanna will remember, was when Rob got the job in Fort Lauderdale. And we didn't have enough money to like afford a place to live there. We could for the first few months because of the sale of our house, but then like we had a few months and he's like, and then we're out of money. And so I knew I had to hit Emerald, right? And then if we're being honest, then he got raises. And so I kind of settled back into, I don't really need to make much. And I got lazy. And now we're back at the point where he has no income. This is he's been making a tiny bit, but this will be his first month with no income whatsoever. So I am working as hard as I possibly can because he's got no income. Now I'm already in the business, so I know, but I share that because you have no idea. I am not posting on Facebook. My husband has no job. I am not posting that. He hates all the stuff I post anyway. He would lose his ever-loving mind if I wrote that, right? So you would never know. Like if Deanna was my upline and I had never shared, I'd just been a customer, she would never know unless she reached out to me and was like, hey, what do you think about earning some money or whatever? And I might go, thank heavens, God sent. I would feel like it was a God thing. And you just don't know what's happening with people financially. And so I kind of, it's a long answer for if you've like, talk to everybody. Well, people's situations have probably changed, and it may be health-wise and it might be financially, but I don't know if you've noticed all the layoffs coming up across all the big companies are laying off tens of thousands of people. And we all know, I posted in my Instagram today about it, but our industry grows the most during recessions. We just do. And so it's time to get to work because everybody's situation is changing and you just don't know what it is. But you wouldn't also have that complaint of I've already talked to everybody I know if you were working to grow your network every day. Because you'd be meeting people. And that, when I say every day, it doesn't have to be every day, but if you're going to networking things, or if you're meeting a girlfriend for coffee and she's bringing friends, or whatever it looks like, whether you're like, hey, I'm going to take tap lessons and meet a whole bunch of new people. Like, I don't know what it looks like of where you meet new people, but those people will introduce you to more people. But you have to be super intentional with like, how am I going to meet new people this week? Any ideas of where you could meet new people besides things that I have thrown out or things that have worked for you? Either of you?
Well, I was actually just thinking about that today, and people that I have approached and talked with that I've known forever. I've lived here in Idaho for 20 years. And a couple of messages, one gal that I'll be following up with, but I thought, we've talked about it before and asking, okay, has your situation changed? I don't know if it's something I know that her situation has changed many different times, but just is the timing ready? So I think asking people that you already know for referrals. Is there anybody that, as long as we're consistent, and I think that's the thing that I'm not always consistent with the things that with sharing, consistent posting. So obviously that's something that I work on and will continue to work on. But I am consistent about taking my products. I am consistent when people say, hey, do you still do Plexus? I've had that a couple times and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I better get back on there. But if we're consistent in sharing, if we're consistent in the things that we're asking for and about and offering, if we're consistent in our offerings, then I think it makes it a lot easier to say to the people that we've already talked to, hey, look, I know that this isn't a fit for you. But I'm still looking for people that this opportunity could really help. And so I'm still passionate about that. I'm still looking for that. Does anyone come to mind? So I think asking the people that we already know that I would never be offended by that. I would never be, if somebody said, hey, I'm looking for, can you think of anybody? I mean, the answer can be no, but it could also be yes.
Yeah.
So.
And the great thing is if you're getting no's, that means you're doing your job. Right. And so I think growing your network, we talked about that. We talked about I'm kind of switching gears here, but when you are talking to people, we've all gotten this, let me think about it. Or let me ask my husband. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times. These women are not texting their husband to ask if they can spend $100 at Target. They are actually probably not asking them if they can spend $100 on Plexus. They're not. Like, some people have that like threshold, but I don't know any marriage where like $100 is the threshold where you got to like ask permission. And if that actually is, they really probably need the business, right? But it's seldom, like, there are levels where you're like, hey, we agree to never spend X amount of money without talking to each other. But Genevieve recommended, when they say, I'm going to think about it, ask them, can I ask you a question? Are you just being nice, or are you really going to think about it? Just upfront. Are you just being, because it's not going to hurt my feelings. Like, hey, can I ask you a question? And I want you to be honest with me. It's not going to hurt my feelings. Are you saying that just to be nice, or because you actually are going to think about it? And then if they say, no, I really am going to think about it, then you immediately ask them if you can add them to your ATM page. So for us, it's Pink Health. And that's the page that teams have with all the testimonies, right? Can I add you to a testimonial page I have where you can take a look at some experiences that other people have had? It's a great way to get more information while you're thinking about it. Now you've moved them to the next step instead of being stuck. Because so often, right, don't we get stuck when people are like, I'm going to think about it. And then we're like, well, we'll just follow up in 4 days. Hey, any questions? And when we ask that question, do you have any questions? They assume they should have a question. We don't want them to assume they have a question. And be like, today I texted somebody who I'd sent information sheets to after a phone call yesterday, and I just followed up and said, hey, not sure if that, information I sent you brought up any other questions. If not, are you ready to get started? So I'm assuming that what I sent her was enough to answer her questions. And so being bold when you're talking to people and just saying, are you just being nice? And letting them know it's totally okay to say, it's just not for me right now.
I think I love that. I haven't really ever thought of being that direct, because but why not? I mean, that actually builds a lot of trust, a lot of, it makes them realize, oh, I can actually tell you one way or another. Because if actually, I'm not going, I mean, most people are probably going to say, no, I really will. Okay. Like you said, then it just moves them forward in having that conversation, and it gets them into a spot where they can have more information. I love it.
And we're putting them, in a spot that will move them forward. We're going to tag them in a couple things. And then we have a reason to follow up in a day or two. Did you see that post I tagged you in that really reminded me of what you and I talked about? Do you know what I'm saying? So, okay, now let's move into, for the last few minutes of training, what are we, I have two things I want to talk about. One is, how do we help our current customers get them to share, right? So one suggestion today was looking in your back office and looking at your PV, and starting with anybody's PV, anybody whose PV has gone up. If their PV has gone up, or it's really maintained at a good high level, like, I'm not going to probably reach out to my person who's been ordering ProBio 5 only for 6 years. I have a few of those. That's great. That's awesome. They don't count as anything for me. I am not going to ask them if they want to get their products paid for. I promise she doesn't need help getting her products paid for. She buys ProBio 5. Right? But our people who are consistently ordering $100 or more, or have increased their PV, want you to reach out to them. So one of the things that you're going to work on this week is looking at your PV, pulling those people and sending them a super quick, easy question, which is, I know you're loving the products. What do you think about getting them for free? I know you're loving the products. What do you think about getting them for free? That's all. And then if they say yes, or tell me more, or no, thank you, you know where to go. But if they say yes, we're not going to say, hey, okay, let me make you a post. We're also, a lot of times I feel like we've been coached on, if people are ordering, hey, if I made a post for you, would you put it up? Everybody is not great about posting like us. Like Rob actually thought, we're working on some marketing things for him. He thought that I used a posting service because I post 3 times a day. And I was like, I haven't used that since 2016. He's like, you just post that much? And I was like, it's just a part of my day. Morning, afternoon, night. Morning, afternoon. That's part of my consistent. I don't even think about it anymore. Literally around 8 p.m., my mind shuts down and goes, what are you going to post about right now? Just like when I wake up and I brush my teeth, my mind actually does that. Around lunchtime, in the morning, around lunchtime, and around 8 p.m., my mind moves immediately to make a post, no matter what I'm doing. It's a little obnoxious, but the fact that he thought I used a posting service to schedule all my stuff because it's that consistent and he lives with me, that means my posting is probably pretty consistent. So, but everybody doesn't like to share. I oftentimes, because I'm trying to see where Deanna is, will go on her page. I don't know what state she's in. I don't know if she's in Arizona or Utah. I know maybe I saw a photo dump for what she did in September and she just pulled it off her camera. I don't know what she's doing. Deanna doesn't love the idea of posting 3 times a day. We laugh when we are together because a post can take her like an hour to formulate. It takes me like 3 seconds, right? So there are people like Deanna who just posting kind of weirds them out and it's stressful. And then there are people who are like, I'm not sharing my business. So rather than going to the consistent people and saying, can I create a post for you to share? What if you just said, hey, who are your 3 ride or die people? Who are your 3 ride or die people? And let them give you the names. Don't say, do you have 3 ride or die people? Let's send them a message, like just cold, hard stop. Who are your 3 ride or die people? They're going to give you the names. And then you're going to say, how do you feel about reaching out to Joe, Susie, and Mark and telling them about these products you've been using? You want to jump on the phone with them and tell them real quick? I could do that. Remember, because they've already agreed that they want to get their products for free, not paid for. Do you want your products for free? Now, there are 3 people, like everybody's got those people. Deanna was one of my people. Jenny was one of my people. Jenny actually called Deanna because she thought when I said $34.95 to join, that it was $3,495 and she was still going to do it because I asked her. But she was calling Deanna to make sure she was doing it too. And Deanna's like, no, I think it's just $34. And Jenny called me. Is it just $34? Like, yes, it's just $34. She was like, oh, thought I was going to have to tell Bryce I was spending $3,500 to help you. And I was 34. It was $34. We all have those people. All of your friends have those people. And so as soon as they do that, and we get them probably in 24 hours, get their 3 ride or die people, and we're like, you just earned $400 and a pair of boots. You're amazing. And they're either going to go, that was awesome, that'll cover my products for a couple months, or they're going to say, that was pretty easy. Like, thoughts on what I should do next? So really just that simple. I know you're loving your products. What do you think about getting them for free? And then not making them post. Once they get their 3 and they kind of liked it or realized that was fun to have those conversations about people's health, they'll probably be ready for you to make a post for them. But let's not push that at the very beginning. Another thing that was recommended, because we're trying to build business builders. Before, I loved this. I'd never thought of doing it this way. It's genius. And I'm going to jack up the words a little bit, but I will put them. Brianne Coolidge is going to type up the exact verbiage and I'll put it in Goal Diggers, but it's along these lines and you may want to shape it to yourself. Before I make a product recommendation, this is after you're having the conversation, right? But we already know what we're recommending. But before I make a product recommendation, I want you to know that I never want finances to get in the way of your health journey. And I just want you to know we have an amazing referral program if you're ever interested. Now, what I would suggest is the Reset Triplex Welcome Pack. So we've talked about dropping that in a lot towards the end. I love the idea of before I make a product recommendation, I want you to know about our amazing referral program. Okay. And then this is not training. You don't need to take notes on this, but corporate said we need to start pushing the heck out of convention. Like getting all of our people signed up for convention. So one of my things that I'm going to be working on this week is reaching out to all of my people and asking them if they're coming to convention, and if not, or if they've registered, and if not, why they haven't registered. Is it lodging? Is it travel? Is it that they're school teachers and they can't come during that time? But what's preventing them? Because if we know, we still have months to overcome that. You know, if it looks like we need to get an Airbnb, like what does it look like so that we make it achievable, make it doable to get as many people here as possible? One of the things that was brought up is that the Plexus Hotel block of rooms is sold out. And they were like, can't you guys open more blocks? And she said, not until we get more people registered. Because once we commit to a block of rooms, corporate has to pay for them. And they will be out of the money if they're not booked. And they said what they come across is leaders who, wink, wink, Deanna, book multiple rooms in hopes that their team's going to fill them up. And then a week or two before, cancel a lot of rooms. And now rooms will open back up in the block. So they're like, unless registration starts to pick up, we won't commit to opening more blocks. I will also tell you, living in Nashville, the block of rooms that they reserved in those hotels are 3 of the most expensive hotels in Nashville. So if people are just looking at that and they're like, the hotels are so expensive, there are 500 gazillion hotels in Nashville. And I'm happy to help people navigate that. The blocks that they reserved are in the nicest hotels because they're a part of the convention center. So they don't have to be there. Also, there are Airbnbs. There are lots of options. Let's help people figure out how to get here. Our speakers so far are John Maxwell and Sarah Ross. I don't know who Sarah Ross is. I'm going to have to look it up. But that was one of my things. I'm like, I think I could push it better if I know who the keynotes are. Are you looking her up right now, Deanna? Do you see who she is? If you don't, then I got the name wrong. Okay, I will go back and ask. Because here is my thing. I have a lot of great customers who are very savvy businesswomen and professionals. And I'm actually going to pitch it to it as almost like a mastermind type event. Like a conference that they would pay to, only this is way less, to go hear from amazing speakers that are going to help change their business, even if it's not Plexus. Do I think they'll catch the vision when they get around the excitement of convention? 1 gazillion %. But I also know even if they don't, just the price of convention is worth them going on John Maxwell Day. Am I right? They could not go see John Maxwell for the price of convention anywhere else. And it's Nashville and it's fun. So convention push, reaching out to your consistent buyers to see if they want their products for free. And then for the people that are going to think about it, we're going to ask them, give them permission to say, I'm not actually going to think about it. I'm just trying to be nice to you, or add them into Pink Health is our page. Jeannie, I don't know if you have one or if you want to be added to ours, just let me know. And then don't get attached to the outcome of anything anybody commits to. Just commit to the process, because it's not fast. Deanna, do you have thoughts before I stop the recording?
Nope. Well, yes, always. I think that's so good. And it's, we need to hear that over and over again. I personally need to hear that over and over again. Not only don't get attached emotionally to the outcome of a conversation negatively, like what if they say no, but also positively. Because then mentally that kind of messes with your head a little bit when you're like, they said yes. And then you go crazy on them instead of like, stay cool, stay cool. I tend to not stay cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, now they want to do all the things. They want to do all the things that I do. No, they don't. They just said yes. So yeah, recognizing that the timeline is long.
It is long. I
It's
mean,
long.
we've been doing this 7 years.
Yes.
It's long. Also, popped into my head and it popped back out. Oh, when you said like about them wanting to do all the things you do, something that came up today too that I really liked is the objection that some people get when we reach out about the business and they say, I could never do what you do. Asking the follow-up question, what is it you think I do? You like that? We assume they know we're working our asses off.
Yeah.
Like we just think that they're like, oh, they don't want to work as hard as I do. They don't actually know what we do. And if we think back to when we were much newer in the company, which is where they would be without a team, it's not very hard. And it's not exhausting, and it did not take a lot of time.
No,
I
it
would
literally
dare
does
say
fit
we did
into your
not-
day.
Yeah, we did not really, I feel like, work until senior gold and above. Like worked as far as reaching out, sharing our testimony, like posting, all of that, we did that. But as far as like having to like really think, like I spend time thinking, what am I going to train on? Who do I need to give extra love to? Where do I need to spend my time? Like that's nothing that any of those people need to do. In fact, they don't even have to be creative with posts because we'll create them for them, right? So when people are like, I could never do what you do, what do you think I do?
I
Because
like
they're not
that.
going to have to do any of that for a really long time, unless they fast start senior gold, which would be amazing. But if they're fast starting senior gold, they probably hardly even need our help. They're just either their network is ginormous or they've done this before. Right? Okay, any other thoughts? Questions? Okay.